welcome to Tarmac. I'm Dave.
I'm Matthew, and behind us here is a Kiwi favorite from Audi. It's the new Q5, but there's a bit of a difference with this one.
It's a PHEV, that's right. So it's part fuel, part electric, but all Audi. Come, let's take a look at this. So the actual name of this vehicle is actually the Audi Q5 TFSI S-Line. So a bit of a mouthful, but then saying that, it's actually a bit of a mouthful of a vehicle. This is actually still the second generation of the Q5. So the first one came out in 2008, second one came out in 2015-16. It was facelifted in 2020, and then we finally got this PHEV version now. So there's a lot that's gone on in two generations, and also it's become one of their best sellers, if not their best seller in the Audi range. I won't bore you too much with going around it because you've probably seen the second generation or the second generation facelift already, but things that I do want to point out with this vehicle: up front you've got the LED headlights, we've come with this black pack essentially. So what you've got is a sort of blackened out grille, you've got the blackened out four rings, and also this comes with a few more sensors as far as is very predictive in the sort of in the quattro stuff that it does. So I'll get into that when we do go for the drive, but essentially this is one smart cookie. Now you'll have to forgive us, we haven't been off-roading, this Manhattan grey colour just attracts so much dirt as it's going along. So if you like cleaning cars, this is probably the colour option to go for. If you don't, well, I don't know. It really is, like I said, just attracts everything. This being the S-Line, comes with 3 S-Line badges, which is good, and they are dotted around the place. You will be able to see them. The big thing though, this has got the 21-inch wheels, which is an option. It's actually around about a £3,000 option here in New Zealand. They are again striking, but I don't know, the standards are 20, so up to you really. The door handles are something I really wanted to point out because they sort of flick up when you open. So whereas you'd sort of think they're just going to come out, they sort of pop up. It's quite an odd experience, and I guess it's something that people that have tested out the new Audi Q5 will know, but I don't know, it's funny, but it does give you that lovely Audi thunk when you close them, so you know it's a good quality build. Round the rear here you've got a roofline spoiler, little window wiper, and also because we've got the black pack again, we've got the black hoops, black rings here, a black stripe, LED tail lights that also sort of slightly smoking. Q5 in black, some blacked out exhaust tips which are actually not there working. Also a kicker tailgate, I always get that wrong, which opens up to about 465 litres of boot space that when you drop the seats down adds around about another 1,000, but also comes you with the charger, because this is the important thing, and this actual home charger kit comes as standard. This plugs in round to this side, you plug it on in and it charges up the 14.4 kilowatt hour battery, which will give you actually an EV only range of around about 62 kilometers. But wait, there's more. You go around this side, there's another flap. This flap you open up, you can fill with fossil fuel, and that goes directly under the bonnet. So let's go there. What we have here is a 2-litre 4-cylinder engine, and that mated to what we've said is before, which is the electrical motors, and that gives you actually all combined with a 7-speed S-tronic gearbox, and what that gives you total output is 220 kilowatts of power and 450 newton meters of torque. 0 to 100 is around about 6.1 seconds, and when it comes to fuel efficiency, this is where it really sort of goes ahead. You've got 1.6 litres per 100 kilometres and actually only 48 grams of CO2 out of the exhaust, so plenty going on as far as making sure there's lots of power going on here, and all driving that quattro system that we will talk about soon. Anyway, Matthew's inside and he'll show you what's going on in there.
Well, how about that? I wasn't insulted for once. And I must say, Dave can lead a double life as one of those presenters on the Home Shop channel, you know, selling stuff that comes with more stuff. Speaking of more stuff, well, you saw what the S-Line badge adds to the outside of the car, and On the inside, the story is much the same. It does make the interior feel more luxurious and more sporty. Starting off with the seats, so they are actually fully leather, and there's a lovely sort of quilted stitching going right through the top and the seat bottom. You've got some chunky-ish bolsters that would be right at home on an Audi S3 or something sporty like that, as well as this kind of car, a family-oriented Q5e. Back to the interior and the dashboard specifically, so you've got some soft touch plastics at the top there. You've got this nice shiny metallic effect bar going across with that all-important Quattro badge, and as Dave will tell you shortly, that it's not just a regular Quattro system that underpins this Q5 in particular. Looking at the middle here, you've got some piano black highlights here, of course some more satin finish metallic look elements. There is an optional extra package where you can have sort of all of this in piano black as well, but that's a considerable amount more than having just some of this in piano black. Speaking of storage spaces, you've got some very generous sized door bins on the front doors, as well as a bit of space in the rear. You've got a little nook over here which can't quite fit a phone. Then you've got another nook over here where your phone doesn't really sit that comfortably. And then you've got this spot right here, which is actually the wireless charging pad, and if you pop this armrest up, can actually move forward and back to be hidden away and reveal some cup holders, or be exposed if that's what you want. It's also got another unique slot there, which I've used for the key, but you can stick a phone in there, a smaller phone admittedly, not mine, but it will fall off at the first corner that you take, so just be advised that there is really only one spot for your phone there. Sticking with this center console, well, you've got the gear shifter, which is covered in leather, nice and simple to use, and is not just a tiny little stub thing, which we are fans of here, rather fans of this style of gear shift. I really like the fact that the air conditioning controls as well are physical, and if you listen to that, how about that clicking noise from the air conditioning temperature controls? It's quite satisfying. You've also got heated seats for both driver and passenger, and optional extra heated seats for the rear passengers as well. There's also tri-zone climate control, and all the controls on here are actually motion sensitive. So as soon as you bring your finger close to it, you'll see that they light up with some extra menus available that you can toggle using these switches here. So quite cool from that aspect. Now the infotainment screen is mounted on top of the dashboard here, and it does look from that angle maybe that it sticks out a lot, but it doesn't actually. It still fits with the sloping design of the dashboard, and on it you'll find a lot of stuff. So this is the sort of home view there, and if you scroll through, that's your apps, and there's plenty more over there, including a weather app, which is quite useless since we have about 4 seasons in every day here in Auckland. Anyway, back to this screen, and you have the car app. So if I go into that specifically, this is where all the action happens, in particular in this car. So you have the Audi Drive Select there, and if I click on that, that shows you 4 different modes, which you can also change through the Drive Select button down here. So I can go from dynamic there, and then as you can see, it changes the suspension, and the engine is pepped up as well. You've got the automatic mode, you've got comfort there, and again, look, the suspension changes, efficiency, and then all road as well. So sorry, that actually makes 4 specific modes plus 1 extra automatic mode, so 5 in total. Luckily, I'm not a maths teacher. Go back, and the other key thing with this Q5e is the charging and efficiency, which you go into this menu and you can see the charging menu there. So when your car is programmed to charge, if you are using that function, you can also head back in and take a look at the efficiency assist and turn on things like the intelligent coasting or the interactive accelerator. And if I head back into the e-tron mode, that will actually tell me the different options in terms of whether I want to charge the battery, whether I want to maintain the battery level as it is, and then if I want to use pure electric only, or make use of that hybrid mode where you get that 1.5 liters per 100 k's fuel efficiency. It's worth noting, as Dave said before, that EV only allows you 62 kilometers of range and will actually allow up to about 120, 130 kilometers per hour in terms of speed. So there is plenty of usability in that function as well. Heading back, you can also see that the EV button down the bottom here, that also brings up the e-tron mode screen that I just showed you. So it's handy to have both the shortcuts on the screen here as well as the functional buttons down the bottom there. So well done, Audi, for having both of those bases covered. So in front of the driver is, of course, Audi's virtual cockpit. I have it set to this particular mode here with the dials, as you can see on both sides, are slightly shrunk, but you can change that to make them a bit more present on the screen. And the view button simply changes that. There you go, it's brought everything up. And take a look at this display. So obviously on the right you've got just your pure speed, but on the left there you've got the battery charge indicator as well as your fuel meter there, and then an efficiency meter, as you can see there, as well as whether you're charging the battery or using power, or the rev counter as well is tucked in there. So there's a lot going on with that left side to make sure that you've always got some sort of view over how your battery is performing in your hybrid system as well, because that's of course why you have the E badge on this Q5. Note actually that we've done better than Audi's predictions, because we've got 64 kilometers of range up on the dashboard there. So that's quite unusual actually for Dave to drive in such a manner, but there you go, it can be done. Now on this screen there is some more customizable options available. If you press the button there, you can take a look at various different displays in the middle between your maps as well as your phone connectivity, range, and then flick down for some more average consumption and various other trip figures. So there is really plenty to play around with in terms of information. The screen in front of you, the steering, as I said before, is Audi's S-line steering wheel, which comes as standard, but you can have an optional extra of a heated steering wheel as well on this car. It's worth noting that the leather feels really soft, and you've got these nice thumb grips and a sort of slightly curved bottom with that S logo for a sporty feel. Paddle shifters are tucked in behind there, and you've got additional adaptive cruise control, which is on a stalk tucked down the side here. Speaking of that driver-car interaction, the key thing is in how all of the different modes work, the electric, pure, the hybrid and pure petrol, and how they all sort of transform into each other. And the only way of doing that is to go for a drive. So let's go and do that.
Now, one of the good things about this being a PHEV and also having that sort of electric drivetrain is the fact that you can just stamp on it and away you go. And it really does pick up. I mean, 6.1 seconds is actually right up there as far as, actually it's borderline S style as far as an S line would go. So it really is a very quick Q5.
Absolutely. So it only has an S badge in terms of the line, but it is up there with the sort of hot hatch territory in that sense. So that electric power does give it a bit of boost, especially at the low down acceleration.
It's a shame I can't talk to you about your old GTI because you don't have that anymore, and because that was slower than this, I think. Just saying.
6.7 exactly.
So this is faster. That's funny. The Q5 has been a stalwart of the Audi family for a long time now, and you can see why. It's big enough to fit a family of 4, 5 at a push, and it's sort of one of those sort of, I don't know, Swiss Army knives of everything. It'll go everywhere. It looks good at a 5-star hotel, looks great camping, looks great in this sort of fieldy sort of weather, and fieldy place as well. So it's an all-rounder, and it just feels so nice to drive.
Speaking of all-round and going anywhere sort of things, this Q5 in particular has Quattro badges, but it's not exactly your regular Quattro system, and I'll let Dave take it away because he's a bit of an expert on this system.
An expert, no, but I have read up on it a bit. They're calling it Ultra, or the Ultra system. So it's sort of Audi Quattro on steroids. And what it is, they're running a sort of 3-tier system. So it's like a proactive, a reactive, and a predictive system. So what it does, the sensors that I sort of alluded to earlier, and the navigation system and the electric motor and the motor system all work in unison. And what they do is they predict what's coming up ahead and try to make sure that you're got the right amount of power and for the right amount of drive that you're doing, or the way you're driving it, and just make sure that the Quattro system reacts and responds exactly to how it should do. So you're either two-wheel drive at some point, so when you need to be efficient, and actually it's front wheel, and then all-wheel drive when you're needed as well. So it's a very smart system, and sort of overlooked already, I think, by many.
Wow, look at that. That's a real high level sophistication there. But this car is so interesting because on the complete other end, you know, it's made for, how do I say, people who are not that sophisticated, because some of the safety warnings around, so on the back, the clips in the boot say not to use for rock climbing, for example. And then there's a warning label just by the USB ports in the back there that says for charging only. So unfortunately you cannot download your favorite Tarmac Live videos to the Audi Q5 or watch them on the infotainment screen. Just listen to them.
I think you're in a bit of a glass house though when it comes to intelligence. You can't even count to 7, which is the driving modes that this vehicle has. So yeah, I think you're throwing stones in a glass house.
Fair enough. I will put my hands up. I did get that number wrong. But what I know for sure is this Q5 is New Zealand's favorite Audi, and for excellent reason, as Dave just said. I mean, not just the fact that now there's only one car in New Zealand, one trim level available, which is this 50 TFSI ES line, but the fact that you can add so many, I mean, the number of options you can add to really make it your own are just endless. There's several different car colors, a green one, green shade in particular, that we really like. You can get stuff like an optional Bang & Olufsen audio system. There's that sunroof there. You've got, as you saw with the wheels Dave pointed out, and you can get a heated steering wheel. The list is sort of just endless for you to really make the Q5 your own and, you know, customize it according to your lifestyle, which I think is really the key USP of this car, is that it's just a lifestyle vehicle in general.
It really is. In terms of visibility all round, you know, great. It's anybody that's been in a Q5, you'll be able to know that, or actually in any Audi, you know, there's a lot of concentration on the driver experience. The mirrors are massive. They're really, really big, and they also flash up really well if there's something overtaking, or sorry, if you're something in your blind spot and you're trying to overtake. The digital screens, as Matthew's pointed out, are really good and really personalizable, so you can get the information you want, and everyone seems to be where it should be. Apart from, for me, I'm a little bit disappointed about some of the sort of switch gear. I think it's getting a little bit tired. I don't like the fact that I have to hunt around for the adaptive cruise control. I think that's, you know, put it up on the steering wheel. That's where it should be, and nice and easy to find. But on the whole, I think that the cabin needs to be a little bit revamped.
I couldn't help but agree a bit more. It does. Some of the bits and pieces are starting to show their age, and, you know, just the fact that this generation of Audi Q5 has been going since 2018, that, you know, at this point makes it a 5-6-year-old car. And even though this is the facelifted model, the interior still retains a lot of what we saw on that first model of the second generation. Is that what you'd call it?
I guess so.
To add one more thing as well, because this Q5 is so popular with families in particular, a handy thing to note is that the ISOFIX points in the back seats are really easy to access. There's just a little clip covering the buckles, and take those off, slot your car seat in, and away you go. It really is that simple.
Well, the big thing we should talk about is this e-power, and the fact that you've got 2 gauges and you've got plenty. I mean, 62 kilometers of EV only range is really probably 2 days worth of commutes for many Kiwis. And you just plug it in at home, so the efficiency of there. So despite the fuel prices going up now, or just about to, this is actually going to be a cracker for that. You can just plug it in at home, and it will, I think the equivalent's roughly like 30 cents a litre. So just easy.
Absolutely. It is 114,990 for this base spec model in New Zealand, and the good thing is it doesn't have any clean car fee applied onto it because of that, exactly that electric power that it offers.
Yeah, right now until they up it again and put a different thing on, but that's a different conversation or a different story for another day. So there you have it, the Audi Q5 50 TFSI E S-Line Quattro Ultra stuff. I mean, I've just got so much to say, and there is so much to talk about rather than just an extra battery put in and a place to plug in. It's still very Audi-ish, so really well put together, feels nice on the road. Just the added efficiency of 1.6 litres per 100 kilometres is just phenomenal, and 6.10 to 100 is just great. It's just enough to make my son vomit in the back, really.
It's just as well that he does all the number stuff, because as you saw, I'm a bit forgetful when it comes to that. But what I do know is that the Q5 has been a favorite for New Zealand audiences, and frankly all around the world. And I think with the introduction of this electric model and the development that it'll see over time, I think it'll only continue to be the favorite for families, for executives, for Audi fans, for everybody, frankly, who buys a Q5.
That was 2 things you brought up. Anyway, thanks for watching. Make sure you subscribe, and we'll see you on the next one. See ya.